Hey everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon, and today I wanted to discuss the mentality of contact work. And what I mean by that is kind of the mental attitude that you have when you're going to go out and do CE5 or human initiated contact events, HICE, cognitive human interface. So, basically in layman's terms, where's your mind at when you're going to go out and do contact or contact work? And this is actually very important. I would say that this is just as important as the protocols or the method that you're going to use for initiating the contact. So you can consider this a primer or a preliminary step, like a self-check before you go out and do the contact. So there's a lot to this. And I don't want to overcomplicate something that's really not too complicated, but it's good in a sense to be clear on these things because although this may seem like work, this is going to immensely help you, in my opinion, on all your contact efforts. So if you're actually serious about going out and doing contact work, and I mean like you're actually going to do it as a continual process. If it's something that you're going to do as a one-off, like you're going to go out one night this time in your life and try to do contact, it's whatever. But if you're serious about doing contact work and you're going to repeatedly go out and do contact work, whether by yourself or with a group of people, yeah, you're going to want to do this. This is going to be an important process for you, in my opinion. And it's something that you'd come to after years, doing it and doing it and doing it. You'd have come to this point anyways. I'm just trying to put this out there early for you people who are maybe new to this or in this for a while. And this is just get this out of the way and make it easy for yourself and have more success. So, the attitude in which you go about and making contact is incredibly important. And there's different layers to this. So one step or layer to this is going to be why. And again, I'm not saying this in as, like there's right or wrong reasons for making contact. If you're just trying to do it so you can get a picture of a UFO, maybe your why is a little bit shallow in the sense where UFO intelligence is not going to be responsive to that attitude, right? That's a possibility. And I'm not assuming to know what UFO intelligence is expecting. I'm using this as an example, although it's a pretty good example. So being clear on why you want to make contact is really going to help, because that's something that is going to be fundamental to your entire process. So, why do you want to make contact? Have you asked yourself that question? And if you haven't, again, there's nothing wrong with that. Just go, reflect on that for a few minutes. Contemplate, why you want to have a contact experience. Is it curiosity, which is fine, right? Who shouldn't want to know if they're alone in this universe in that case? So there's nothing wrong with just being curious. Genuine curiosity. Is there something deeper than that? That's for you to reflect upon and understand. And whatever that may be, understanding that is and having that as your foundation is going to be very powerful for you going out and doing contact work. It's like having a strong foundation to stand on, in a sense. And again, genuine curiosity is fine. So that's one layer of it. Another layer beyond your why is going to be expectations. So, you might, assuming just like you're going to go out and make contact, have you considered what your expectations are? Are you expecting, some kind of metal disc to come down in your yard or to the contact site? Are you expecting entities to just come out and talk to you, or you're expecting an orb of light to just come and hover around? Are you expecting just to see a ball of light in the sky? I generally advise when people go out and do contact work to kind of put your expectations to the side. But it's also important in a sense to understand what your expectations are, because what you're expecting in a sense is you're going to be mentally kind of projecting that intention, even subconsciously in a way, where if that's what you're expecting, you're kind of projecting that intention without realizing it sometimes. So be clear on what your expectations are. And if you're, communicating in a sense with UFO intelligence, the UFO intelligence is going to be able to pick up on that expectation in some way. So again, having your why clear is one very important thing. Having your expectations clear is another important thing. Because again, if what you're expecting may not reflect the reality of contact and contact work, which is fine. The only way you're going to learn is through the actual contact. But being clear on that is very helpful. Also, in the sense is if you're subconsciously expecting a certain thing, that expectation is already causing you reactionary internal states that you're now projecting. So it's this kind of feedback loop, which to some people it may be a very subconscious. You might not even be aware that you're doing this, and that's why meditation helps with clarity and clearing your mind, and also having coherent thoughts. So if you are connecting with UFO intelligence, you're clear what you're projecting. Number one, number two, so you also have a stronger signal. Another part of the mentality of contact work is, how serious are you taking it? Is it something where you're just going to go outside for 10 or 15 minutes and do the protocols or try to connect and just expect something right there and then, if nothing happens, that's it? General principle for everything in life is, what you put into something is what you get out of it, right? So how seriously you're taking it is also going to reflect in how the contact may unfold. So if you're just kind of like haphazardly going about it, and you're at a party and you're drinking, you're like, let's do contact work, or let's do CE5, man, and nothing happens, it's like, how seriously were you taking it, right? I always recommend preparation work. So you're preparing, you're trying to make all the conditions optimal for the contact to occur. And something in yoga, right? When you're trying to reach samadhi or these, higher states, what you're doing is you're removing the obstacles that are in the way for that to just naturally occur. So it's a very similar idea with contact work. What in your preparation work, you're removing the obstacles that are obscuring contact from just happening on its own. So some of the things that I would advise is taking CE5 and contact work seriously. You're trying to go out and initiate contact with non-human intelligence or UFO intelligence, whatever you want to call it, ET intelligence, whatever you believe the UFO phenomenon to be. So if you're taking it more seriously, it's more likely that it's going to occur. Just like with anything else, if your goal is to run 5 miles and you're not taking it very seriously, you're probably not going to run the 5 miles. But if something you take very seriously and you work at and you work at and you work at, you're probably going to do it. And number one, number two, you're probably going to get pretty damn good at it. If you're training and you're practicing regularly and you're hydrated and you're well rested. So you can do those same kind of preparations in contact and contact work and remove the obstacles and set up an optimal environment for contact to occur. And so some things I would quickly recommend for that would be, if you're going to do contact work Friday night at 8 p.m., instead of going out at 7:40, so doing a 20-minute meditation and then going out for the contact work, or just say you have a CE5 planned for that Friday night, and everybody meets, and you have a group of people, say 10 people, the 10 people meet and they start doing the meditation and the coherent thought sequence or whatever contact processes that they use. That's great. But you know what's even better? If during that entire week, everybody took time out of their day, one or two times to do the meditation and to do the connection work or whatever processes you use for contact during the week, one or two times every day. That's one way of preparing. Or even, I would say at minimal, that morning, when everybody wakes up before they go out and go to work or whatever they do, or sometime in the middle of the day before everybody meets up, do some preparation work, do your meditation, and do whatever contact sequence or methodologies that you use early in the day, right? Because it's not like you're going to go out and do contact work and you're like, UFOs, come here, UFOs. That's not how this works. If you were going to meet with a friend, are you going to just call them you might, right? But this is an example. Call them last minute and say, meet me right now at my house or the restaurant, right? Or is it more ideal to call them earlier in the day or maybe several days before and say, hey, would you like to meet me Friday at 8 o'clock at such and such place? That is more ideal. It's more likely. It's more polite. So there's, again, it sounds silly, but I think there is a lot to that. And sometimes, UFO intelligence, we can't just expect another intelligence to just respond to our every whim when we say so, just like at the snap of a finger, right? Maybe they're highly capable and all that. But again, there's kind of a lot to unpack there that I don't want to get into. But again, in my experience and other contact workers, if you're doing preparation work like that and you're preparing beforehand, you have a much higher rate of probability for a higher level contact to occur. And that's why a lot of times when there's, contact events, they last several days because, maybe the first night isn't so responsive, but the second and the third night, because there was that time for UFO or the UFO phenomenon to respond, it responds, on its own terms, right? So that's something to consider. So you got your, why are you doing this? Kind of your expectations and kind of like your own mental baggage that you want to analyze, examine, unpack, and put kind of in check in a place that's optimal for contact. And, are you taking this seriously? Is this something that is a serious endeavor for you? Those are all important things. And the kind of last part I would leave this off with, to kind of just do a simple video here, would be in the way in which you relate to the phenomenon, the UFO phenomenon. And, again, I don't want to rub people the wrong way. But in my experience, it's important in, how welcoming you are, your attitude and perceptions of the UFO phenomenon when you have the contact. And what I mean by this really is, are you being very welcoming, right? Because you're inviting the UFO phenomenon basically to your area for some kind of encounter or a sighting or to say hello, however you want to look at it. So, your attitude towards the UFO phenomenon itself, right? What's your mentality there? Do you think that they're going to come and abduct you? Do you think they're going to come and save you and all that? So both of those ideas are kind of like, what? And, if I was the UFO phenomenon and I was able to look into people's awareness and consciousness and I saw that, I'd be like, I don't know, But if you have a genuine, sincere, and reasonable mentality, the UFO phenomenon might be more responsive and be like, oh, wow, they seem pretty chill, right? I know that sounds silly, but again, your mental attitude towards the UFO phenomenon itself and how you perceive it and your impressions is important. So even if you just take all that mental baggage that you have, and just for when you're doing the contact work, just say, listen, I know these are just impressions. In reality, I don't know anything. So for now, I'm going to put this mental baggage aside and say, I would like to know. And have that kind of beginner's mind mentality to just take all that mental baggage. And even if it's just for this contact work, put the mental baggage to the side and have a clear slate for when you do the work. And later, after that, if your subconscious impressions come up after you're doing the work, that's fine. That's human nature. That's the brain working. We need that kind of beta brainwave functionality mind. And that's why the meditation helps with all this, because you can sit there, do your meditation, and, clear the slate mentally and say, just for this contact work session, I'm going to put all this stuff to the side and just be present in the process and be open to what occurs, right? So all that's important. And, lastly, I would say if you're not ready for the contact work, don't do it. If you're having, if you're not sure and you have fear, nobody's forcing you to do this. So this is a personal choice. If you have reservations about doing it, you don't have to do it. There's people that are doing it. You can look at their examples, and if there's, whatever, 1,000 people or 100 people, you're looking at their examples on CE5 websites or, on social media or whatever, and it sounds like something you want to do, great. But if you have reservations and you're fearful, don't do it, right? Because that you can be fearful and have a contact encounter which is indifferent in a way, but still it's jarring to you, and it could be, you don't want it to unsettle you even more than the thought of contact is unsettling to you already. So that's just like a disclaimer. And again, that's something that the UFO phenomenon will likely pick up on, right? If we're using thought and coherent thought, and what people would call telepathy. I don't know if that's the actual correct terminology of what's going on, but UFO intelligence does seem to be able to interface with conscious thought. So that's what we're going off of here. And I mean, I'm convinced that works through all my own experiences. Again, so just a quick review. Why are you doing this? Be clear on why you're doing the work. Your expectations. Be clear on your expectations. It's good to be aware of those and how those expectations are internally affecting you while you're doing the contact work. How seriously you're taking the contact work. Are you taking it seriously that actually garners a response from the UFO phenomenon? Should the UFO phenomenon take you seriously when you're going out to do the contact work? And again, your attitude, your beliefs, your impressions about what UFO intelligence is, and at least if you're serious about doing the contact work, putting all that aside, even if you believe they're peaceful Arcturians or Pleiadians and they're here to help and heal, even I would say even put that aside for when you're doing the work and let the contact unfold in a genuine and real way. So again, those are just some thoughts on the mentality of contact work. Again, in at least a lot of the initiatives, the early initiatives, let's say CSETI, for example, one of their goals was to create peaceful contact with UFO intelligence or non-human intelligence, or what CSETI called extraterrestrial intelligence, which is very possible that some of these the UFOs represent. So they had a very serious intention behind that, right? They're trying to create peaceful contact with non-human intelligence or extraterrestrial intelligence, and that's a very noble cause in my opinion. So I appreciate that approach, and that approach worked for the early CSETI team. You know, it wasn't, again, while there's nothing wrong with curiosity, there was something there that was bigger than themselves, and they were going out and doing this work with other people to again create peaceful contact with non-human intelligence. So that, you know, whatever reasons you may have, you know, work on that and try it. Again, this is just my video on the mentality of contact work. You guys work on your mentality. I'll work on my mentality. This is just a very generalized video, sharing some perspective and point of view and all my experience in the field. So I hope you guys appreciate that. If you guys have other ideas and perspectives, share in the comments. And I'm sure I can do more videos similar to this. This is just something that I have not seen videos on, and I think during contact work, this is fundamental. So again, I'm open to everybody's feedback, and maybe other people will create similar videos. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Take care.